beautiful Recover and Rise family. I hope that you are doing well. Happy New Year. We are into 2023, and this is so exciting. Julia's going to be hopping on with me here, and we are super excited to be back here, ringing in the new year with all of you beautiful people. And we're going to be chatting a little bit today about shifting from chaos to inner peace. Going to be a great conversation that I know will resonate with a lot of you, if not all of you, to be completely honest, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in the internal world that sometimes we just don't completely understand, and then we end up just living in this state. And there is a lot more possibilities to the way that we can choose to live our lives, having some of these tools. So we are very excited to come on here. So if you guys know the drill by now, if you're on here live, say hello in the comments, put live in the comments. If you're catching the replay, put replay. If you're catching it on the podcast or YouTube, welcome, welcome. And if you'd like to join us in the community, please feel free to join us. We would love to have you. And we'd love to welcome all of the new members this week as well. So if you are new, welcome. We are super excited to have you here. And please feel free to join in on this live. Let us know your intention and what you're most excited for with this group. Hi Brooke, hi Justin, hi Jane. Super happy you're all on here. This is so great. So we are going to be chatting a little bit more about resentments today. So who here knows what resentments are? Put in the comments if you know what resentments are. Because when Julie and I were having this conversation prior to this, we narrowed it down to being one of the top disturbances of our inner peace. And not only for ourselves, but for the people that we work with as well. And so we're going to be chatting a little bit more. Hi, Crystal. We're going to be chatting a little bit more about some key things that you must understand about resentment so you can begin experiencing more peace in your everyday lives and in your relationships. And sharing 4 key things you must understand about resentments so that you can start beginning to experience more peace in your everyday life and in your relationships. And if you can get excited about having more peace in your body, more peace in your life, more peace in your relationships, let me know in the comments. Put peace, the word peace, or put the little peace sign in the comments. I know I can, that's for sure. Here we go. Here comes Julia. And so, like I shared too, we have a special guest joining us as well today. Hi, Julia. So we have Crystal joining us too, which we are very excited to have her on here. So make sure you stay right to the very end. And then we have some very exciting announcements for some stuff that's coming up at the end of this month, which you won't want to miss. So make sure you stick around right to the very end. And we will hop right into this. So I know I shared at the very end of the last one. Who here knows what resentments are? Yes, Justin. Who here knows what resentments are? And if you don't, you will find out today. Julia, do you wanna try a little bit about resentments?
Yes. Well, let me see here. I'm trying to see if any of you might have a memory of feeling a little bit off balance, or feeling off, or feeling like we're forcing things, or feeling like things just kind of aren't going our way. That general gut feeling of, darn it. And then maybe we lash out at the people we love. Maybe we bring frustration into our work environment. Maybe we break down crying in certain moments. Maybe we even go into psychosis and stuff like that. This all kind of stems from a buildup of resentment. And resentment is, someone mentioned it in the other live I saw, they said it's to refeel. Resentment is, the root word of resentment is resentiment, which means to feel again something that may have happened in the past. So how many of you have had something happen in the past and have carried thoughts about that thing, well into your future? Maybe 5, 10, 20 years later, we're still talking about that thing that happened years ago, or we're still talking about that thing that happened last week, or we're complaining about someone or something. Resentment is really, in the big book, it says resentment is the #1 offender, which means that it takes more lives than alcohol actually does, because it's really at the root of all addictive patterns. It's at the root of family trauma and family, conflict. It's at the root of all of our, hey Justin, it's at the root of all of our self-sabotaging patterns as well. It was at the root of a lot of my suicidal thoughts. So just, coming from my own personal experience, we have one body, right? And I have this one body. And throughout my life, I've had certain experiences, being heavily bullied in high school, even in elementary school, growing up in a household that struggled with mental health and addiction, later in life, in my corporate environment, as a woman in my corporate environment, I have had many different traumatic moments that have piled up. And I don't realize that my body is only one little vessel. This little body has been through so much. And I'm sure every single person watching this live, you're a whole universe inside your body. Like, you have memories and experiences and things that have happened to you that, don't worry, Crystal, I'll jump off and you should be able to join after. You have had memories and experiences where, your body can only handle so much. And so how I like to describe resentment to people is, imagine you had a backpack, right? And your backpack was full of rocks. Well, we're carrying around all those resentments all the time. And so we look at the world differently. If I have a resentment towards my mom, who maybe yelled at me when I was 6 years old, if she kind of talks to me in a way that I don't like now, I might lash out at her, right? Because not only am I reacting from what's happening in the present moment, I'm also reacting from what's happened many, many, many years ago. So does that make sense, Laura? Are we on track here? Drop a yes if this is landing.
100%.
Drop a yes if this is landing for anyone. So the most important part about resentment is to know when we feel off balance. So I've already mentioned one, and Laura, you can also drop in here too, but lashing out at people. I'm off balance. Bringing frustration into work environments. I'm off balance. Even that gut feeling. Both Laura and I had a resentment come up for us this morning. And it was like, we call each other, we're like, are you ready for this live? Yeah, I'm ready for this live. Actually, hang on a second. I just got to use the tools and process the resentment that I have before I come on this live.
And we always joke about it because we're like, Spirit always guides us to the exact tools that we're going to be talking about right in the moment. It's like, are you actually going to be putting this into work?
That's right.
Yeah.
Always. Oh, I'm forever deepening this work, because you cannot preach what you don't practice. So it's so important to know when the body feels off balance. So I want to ask you, when does your body feel off balance? What does that feel like? Does it feel like anxiousness? Does it feel like, thought loops in the mind? Does it feel like, thinking to myself that I'm not loved? Does it feel like not wanting to get up out of bed in the morning? When do you feel like your body's off balance? These are all signs of that backpack being really, really full. Do you want to add anything here, Laura?
Yeah, I think resentments, like, it's interesting because a lot of their behaviors that come from resentment are very normalized in society, where it's just like the drama, right? Or the gossip, or like the way that we speak in society. There's a lot of resentments in our bodies. And I love how you mentioned in the body. And it's interesting because you hear a lot of people share how they don't feel like they had a traumatic childhood. And I know even for myself, I thought that, but after learning more about Gabor Mate's work, who's a doctor out of Vancouver, and he does a lot of stuff with trauma and addiction, the body keeps track of and score of all of the traumas, right? Our mind forgets. So a lot of the time we feel like we forget that we feel like we didn't experience traumas in our past. And for me, I know some of the biggest traumas in my life that kind of compounded were all of these emotional things in relationships or in that environment in childhood. And it's interesting even seeing my nieces now, sometimes, like, obviously everybody is human. So when we have these emotions and they are projected outwards, to see how a child actually reacts in that energy, it speaks volumes when you look at children, and even just witnessing kind of what happens in society with how children react to certain energies, that this is all stored in our bodies. And it was interesting for me when I started understanding that, because a lot of the behaviors that I just had, like when it comes to being like just angry or being frustrated or just outwardly like just bringing that energy into conversations and constantly talking about this stuff that was bothering me, because it was so uncomfortable in my body and I didn't have the proper tools to actually be able to understand what it was. So it was just a natural thing that my body would do, would be to talk about what's happening. You'd go to every friend until all of your friends are exhausted, and then you're left there. And that's when you have these big blowups or these big mental breakdowns, because you don't have any more tools left to be able to go to, because we didn't learn these emotional tools, right? And it's huge, because once you can start understanding what it actually means and have the tools to be able to process them, it brings you, like I said at the beginning of this live, back to that place of inner peace, right? Where we can process all of that stuff. So for me, when I am off balance, it's basically like anything that's not love, peace, compassion, joy, right? Like when I'm coming from that lower vibrational state into a relationship, now it brings off a little alarm bell where it's like, okay, there's something in my body that's allowing me to see through the world a different lens, that there's something that I need to take a look at that's underneath the surface, so that I can dig into it, clear it. And then again, then I can see back to love, where I can come from a place of forgiveness and be able to have conversations in relationship to be able to navigate these resentments. They're going to come up because there's always kind of misinterpretations between relationships and stuff that happen. And when those misinterpretations happen, then there can be resentments held. So it's kind of something that we have to learn how to work with, opposed to just that they're going to go away. And let any of this work, right? Not that we have these tools, we use them, and then it just completely goes away and we're so free, we're liberated, we're like, yes, we fucking did it. You know, like, it's like, no, like, this is stuff that life is always going to be bringing us, these opportunities to go deeper into ourselves, so that we can continue using these and learn amazing lessons. Like if you read Julia's post that she put into the group yesterday, oh my gosh, so many amazing lessons in there about like the anger and how that brings things up, right? Like there's so many lessons to be learned. If you haven't read that post, go read it and like take your time actually slowly reading through it, because it's like mind blowing with the wisdom that's in that post. But also another thing for resentments as well, I think retracting away from relationships as well. It can either be kind of like a forward kind of like projection, or it can be like a retraction where it's like, I'm going to avoid this person, or I don't want to take a look at it. Like I just don't want to engage in that at all, because it's going to be uncomfortable for me to have to navigate that. So like pulling away and retracting. So it can show up in all different ways. It's different for like everybody, and it could be different even for the same person with different kind of situations, because there's always so much stuff going on beneath the surface.
Beautiful. I agree with all of that, Laura. Definitely, I agree with not exhausting your friends. Very important, because you don't want to be that person that people kind of distance themselves from because you can't stop talking about, your shit. And that's what processing and having these tools is for, is so that you can actually come to your relationships with a new energy without all these resentments and baggage, and you can bring a new energy and a new life to your relationships. So thank you for bringing that to the table. So the whole thing, now just briefly we'll talk about how to move through, or how to identify when something bothers you and what steps to take. It's really important to know first and foremost when that breakdown happened. I like to call them breakdowns as opposed to problems, or as opposed to messed up things that happen, right? The labels that we give things are so important. So identifying what was the breakdown that happened. Was it something someone said? Was it that I didn't have time to do my morning routine in the morning? Was it that maybe I didn't get my workouts in and I'm feeling really groggy and frustrated? These are all really important. And notice how they're all really small things. Like one word someone can say, or one missed opportunity on a routine, or just one small moment that kind of throws us off can create a huge breakdown in our day. And sometimes it can throw off our whole day. And if we're not careful, and if we don't slow down, and I always say this in all of my courses and all of my workshops, you are worthy enough to slow down, to process what came up for you. There's no need to rush through it. Otherwise, what's at risk if we don't if we don't process this stuff? If we're constantly rushing through life, what's at risk is who we're being in the world. And who we're being in the world, I actually should have added this one in the list of the lessons from this year, but who we're being in this world is actually more important than what we're doing. So the energy that we show up in, am I showing up upset or frustrated or mad, or am I actually showing up with who I know and who I can see myself being? Who we're being is more important than what we're doing. And because that's how people are going to remember us. They're going to remember us for who we were being in that moment. That's also how we're going to look at ourselves and relate with ourselves, is who I was being in that moment. And most of the regrets, I try not to live with too many regrets, but usually the only regret I ever have is not listening to my intuition, because our bodies always tell us the answers, and we only get into trouble when we don't listen. Which brings us to the next thing,
Yeah.
which is, Laura, what is it?
I would like to mention about that as well. When it comes to slowing down enough, when you are used to being in a reactive state all the time, it can be very hard to be able to slow down enough to actually identify the breakdown. And one of the things that I'm a big advocate for is meditation. And I actually put out a blog post recently with my meditations now going on Insight Timer, because what meditation actually does, which is a practice, right? When I first started doing meditation, oh my gosh, my mind would swirl off to all of the different things. It's thinking about the resentments, it's thinking about this, it's thinking about that. But what it does is eventually over time, when you can continually bring yourself back to that guided meditation, it trains your brain how to slow down and how to be present. And it's only from that state that you can actually identify and slow down the time between when the actual incident occurred and the space, what happened led up to it. So you can actually slow down what happened. So you can basically go back and reanalyze what happened, identify the breakdown, and then be able to mend it and heal it and forgive and do all of the extra pieces with that. So meditation has been huge for me to be able to do that. So if you don't meditate now, like definitely look into starting to practice doing that, because it's just all of these little tiny tools that we can do for that, to be able to support in that. But that's massive.
Yes. So good. So good. And the last thing I'll mention here before we hop off, what was the last point, Laura, again?
Why it's important to process.
Oh my goodness. Why is it important to process resentment? I would say that the people that we lose to addiction and suicide and a lot of the things that are happening right now in our world actually has more to do about resentment than it does about addiction itself. Because the things that we hold on to in our bodies, the traumas that we have, the feelings that we have that are left unprocessed, and the ways that these block us from living in connection with the spirit of the universe, living in connection with our divine selves and our intuition, is truly what is most at risk. And I talk to so many people, and I talk to you about your big visions and the visions that you have to create, the legacy that you want to live, how you want to give back to people, how you want to help people, how you want to bring a body of art to the world, or your business to the world, or just these really incredible visions. And every single one of us is so capable and so powerful. And then what happens? Well, these self-sabotaging patterns come from these unprocessed resentments, or these unprocessed fears, or these unprocessed emotions. And so I want to ask you, what's at risk if we don't put ourselves first in a way that can allow us to step into who we can see ourselves being? What's at risk for you? What is something you'd be leaving on the table? you know, if we don't allow ourselves to grow in those really beautiful ways. So without further ado, I'm going to hop off here.
You actually,
and I'm
Crystal should be able to hop back on. I just sent her a message because she's no longer on the live. So hopefully she'll hop back on to be able to chat. But what we can actually do is we can go more into depth of Recover and Rise and what's coming up here at the end of the month. And then if Crystal hops back on, then we can have her on here as well.
Perfect. Okay, well, Crystal's going to hop back on in a moment. She's going to talk about her experience with resentment and Recover and Rise. And Recover and Rise really is our signature program. It's an 11-week transformational group container, which means that we are all on a call on Tuesday nights from 8 to 9:30 p.m. And Laura and I both hold a powerful group container where transformation happens. And transformation happens both by us teaching you the tools to be able to overcome the emotional blocks within our bodies that our bodies might be storing, and also the safety to allow ourselves to go deeper. We can only go as deep as how safe we feel. And that's why by ourselves, if we only live one life, we often don't know how to move into the next life. But having a group container that's holding a safe space for you to process and to also call you forward into your vision, that's how we started last year. And I had one of the most powerful and transformational years of my life. And there are quite a number of people who are in this group who joined us last year, and we are going to be doing it again this year. It's going to be from January 30th until April 11th, 11 weeks. And Laura's going to get more into what happens each week.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to start on January 31st. So like Julia said, it's going to be 11 weeks. And so the very first week, we're going to be just getting introduced to everybody. And it's interesting because I was watching one of the testimonial videos from Julianne, who we're going to be sharing that video into the group here very shortly. And one of the things that she mentioned in there was that she didn't feel that the group environment would be her. If she had the choice, she would have chose one-to-one over the group, only because it was uncomfortable for her to be in group. And the thing that she found most powerful about it was the fact that it was in a group environment and that she felt so safe and so held in that environment that it helped her to open up and feel vulnerable in that, which then she was then able to take out into her everyday life and into her normal relationships as well. So the group container is just so powerful in that. And for me as well, I used to be so afraid to just be able to speak my truth and just be authentically myself, thinking that people are going to judge me or rejection and all of these things coming up. But when you're in these group environments and everybody is in there for the same reason, and you know that it is that safe space where you can just fully authentically express what is moving through you, it connects you with those people, because you start realizing, and she mentions this in the testimonial as well, and her sharing her experience through it, that she realized that everybody was actually moving through very similar things, but different situations, which is very powerful. So in that first week, we're really going to just be getting to know one another in that group. Week number 2, we are going to be talking about reimagining your comfort zone. So this is taking a look at all of the things that you are currently leaning into in your everyday life that may be out of comfort, opposed to actually moving you toward the vision that you have or that goal that you have set for yourself for 2023. The second week is going to be the secret to caring less and taking your power back. So we get into the overthinking thoughts, we get into caring, which I had this conversation with Justin, who's on here just on our session the other day, and I know he'd be fine with me with sharing this because I resonate deeply with this. Is either like over caring or not caring enough, right? So finding that healthy balance in between the cares, right? And that's something that definitely I'm sure everybody here can relate to with the cares. And if you can, definitely put them in the comments and let us know. Week number 4 is we're going to be going into overcoming fear and stepping into your truth. And so this is a big one, because fear, when we don't have a good relationship with it, it holds us back from a lot of things that we actually desire, right? Fear is just that part of our brain that is that protection piece. And when we don't have that relationship with our fear, right? Like even before coming on this live, I was sitting here feeling the fear of coming on here, right? It just brings up all of these old past things of rejection and abandonment and all of these things, right? It's so normal for these things to come up because it's a human experience. So we're going to be diving more into overcoming fear and stepping into our truth. Week number 5, we're going to be talking more about healing long-standing resentments and finding inner peace. So we're going to be diving into the actual tools that you can then move through to go to understand your resentments more, exactly like what we were talking about today, so that you have those tools to be able to go through on your own, so that when this stuff comes up and when you're feeling off balance, you then can then just be like, okay, I'm going to go to the module, I'm going to work on it. And you're going to get to workshop this on the calls as well with everybody. So you're actually going to be learning how to embody this as well. In week 6, we're going to be going over triggers or activations, whatever you want to call them, and understanding our shadow self, right? So we can feel a lot of shame sometimes for what we call our shadow self, or when we're not showing up in a way that we want, which are just little pieces of ourselves that we haven't fully looked at and learned to love within ourselves yet. And a lot of the time that can hold us back from actually going after those big dreams and those big goals that we have in life. So we're going to be diving into that in week 6. Week 7, we're going to be talking about creating juicy, intimate relationships, which is always an awesome week, because relationships are so fulfilling, right? Like when we can connect and we can have these intimate conversations, it feels so good in the body to just feel held and to feel understood and to feel like you belong. So we're going to be talking more about that in week number 7. Week number 8, we're going to be going into embodying who you see yourself being. And this goes into what Julia mentioned today about who you are being is more important than what you are doing or what you have, right? So who you can see yourself being in a way that will allow that vision to actually come into fruition, so you can embody and be the person that is confident and feeling ready to take on all of those steps that it's going to take for you to get to that big, ambitious goal that you have in life. Because all of those little ambitions and those goals you have, like, they're so there for a reason, right? Like, it wasn't put inside of me, it wasn't put inside Julia, it was put inside you for a reason, because it was put inside of you, because you were the one that is meant to bring this into this world. Week number 9, we're going to be talking about tapping into a power greater than ourselves. And I love this week because when we get caught in these heavy emotions, it can sometimes be hard to pop ourselves out of them to reach those higher frequency emotions of the peace, of the love, of the joy. And when we allow ourselves to tap into a power greater than ourselves, which can be any source of a higher power. So in this course, we don't go into any specific religions or any specific beliefs. It's all up to you and what you would like to create for that. But being able to tap into something greater allows us to see a greater perspective of what we're going through and see a greater vision for our life. So that's what we're going to be going into in week 9. Week 10, we are going to be going into designing your legacy. So what does that legacy life look like for you? And that's what we're going to be diving into in week 10. And then week 11, we're going to be talking more about leadership through service. And I know a lot of you in this group are here because you want to provide greater service to the world. You want to be able to contribute. You want to be able to allow the gifts that you have and just you being you to ripple out and impact other people. I had another conversation with somebody just yesterday who wants to create sacred spaces for other people to come and be held and to heal and to just feel nurtured and feel like they belong, right? So we have all of these amazing visions for what we want to bring to this world when it comes to service. And in order to provide those type of services, we really need to be able to step into our leadership capabilities so that we don't continue running through those burnout cycles, right? Because if we don't learn how to embody that version of ourselves that can actually move through all of the stuff that's going to come up as we work toward these goals, then we won't ever be able to actually achieve that and really tap into our full potential. So that is what Recover and Rise is going to look like. So Julia has just put in into the comments there, and I will post exactly what I just shared so that you can see the actual visual of it as well. I know I'm a very visual person, to be able to see the exact breakdowns of what each and every single week looks like. And then I'm going to put a link in there as well where you can just click on it, and it's just a form. So go through there, fill out your information, fill out the form. We will reach out to you if you're interested in joining us, and we will book a call and we'll have a chat with you, have a conversation to see what that big dream is, what that big goal is, and to see if Recover and Rise may be that solution for you to help you get to where you currently are, to where you're wanting to go, and provide you all of those tools to support you emotionally to be able to get to that end goal. And I know Julie and I always mention this as well, that these are modules that we still go to very often. I shared, I think last week, that I went through 3 of them in 2 days because a lot of stuff was coming up. And what used to take me, say, like a couple days or a week or a month, and staying in those heavy energies, now you can clear them in a couple hours and be able to get back to living in that place of peace and joy and love, and being able to enjoy your life a lot more. So that is our intention for this, is that you can really enjoy yourself as you're moving through life toward bringing that greater service, toward bringing that greater contribution, whatever that looks like to you specifically. So if you have any questions, let us know. We are super fired up for this. And once again, it's going to be going from January 31st to April 11th on Tuesdays from 8 until 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. And the calls will be recorded as well. So if you aren't able to make it to every single one, then that's totally fine. They will be recorded. And you also get access to the entire portal. So you get access to the entire online course. You get access to another private Facebook community similar to this one, with all of the people that are moving through it. So you will really get, you'll meet some really incredible people in there, and a lot of them, if not all of them, will become lifelong friends for you to continue having that support as you move toward those greater visions. So if you have any questions, just let us know in the comments here. And if not, wishing you the most incredible New Year's. And I'd love to know also, what is your big dream? What is your big goal? What's your big ambition? What is that thing, that one thing that you were like, if I could complete this in my lifetime as a legacy project, I would feel so complete. I would feel amazing, right? I know for me, I've got quite a few of them. Like, there are quite a few lists. I would love to write a book. That's definitely one of my legacy projects that I would love to do, is to write a book. And so maybe that will actually be my intention moving through this round of Recover and Rise as we go through it. But, oh, amazing. We have Crystal here ready to hop on. This is perfect. Yay! I'm so glad I'm
Hello.
here. Hi, Crystal.
Finally, I'm here.
Thank you so much for being open to come on. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well. I am well. I am in the old-fashioned Mexican style, so
I love
you will
it.
hear some noises at the back. It's live.
I love it. It's real life. That's amazing. Well, thank you for coming on. And so for everybody watching or listening, Crystal has been through Recover and Rise, and she's absolutely amazing. She's a spiral practitioner. Crystal, what's the program you're going through?
The program I am going
Mm-hmm.
through? Like, you mean the...
Medicine.
I can take this so far. The program...
You're like, many of them. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always doing something.
Yeah, I would say the program I'm going through, or I'm integrating constantly, is, of course, Recover and Rise.
Mm-hmm.
Life. And then, of course, I also have some other mentorships in business, in like system thinking. But yeah, so I am integrating or learning at least these 3 together to help me to move day to day.
I love it. Amazing. Well, are you open to sharing a little bit more about, like, what were some of the biggest things that you kind of learned from Recover and Rise, and how is that now impacting your ability to now show up in the way that you're showing up with all of your other business endeavors?
I love this question, and it actually got me thinking, because yesterday I saw Julia sharing a post about nothing great comes from rushing, and I resonate really deep with it, because I had a conversation respectively with like my own mentors, my own dance teacher, and as well as my own team, about allowing time to really slow down. In Spanish, we say más lento. No, but más lento, but more intentional, like slow and intention. And this is something that I've been hearing from myself, from my body. So all in all, with Recover and Rise, I am learning how to listen to my body a lot more, connecting into my body in multiple different levels, multiple different degrees. And not only that, you know, like, oh, what nourish you, my body? Like, what do you like to eat? But also my body gives me the wisdom. It's like, hey, Crystal, these are the actions that you will do today. And if you do that today, that's it. Like, that's the I would say that's the domino action or decision that you will go through today. And my body allows me to move me from resistance, or allow me to at least get curious about where the resistance are. And there's so many tools I learned from Recover and Rise, which I would say anyone on the fence, please join, because how we view the world, when our perspective change, the world changes. And I am seeing it 100% in the relationship that I have with myself, with other people, with business. I'm killing it in business. I'm actually killing it. So, and it came with a lot of growth. A lot of, could be very painful, could be the moment that stops me, but because of the tools that I actually learned from Recover and Rise, I journal. And I'll show you something I actually journal today.
Amazing.
It's the same tool. So I'm integrating a lot of all these teachings together, and allowing myself show up, and gave myself time also in the past 2 years, as you witnessed, Laura, to slow down, make decisions, and then slow down even more. And then something very exciting to share is that this upcoming Saturday, I'll be leading a very small intention setting ceremony here in Guadalajara.
Yay!
And already, I think there are already like 6-7 people who said yes, they're coming. I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful. It's the giving of the tools, extending it. So basically, that also comes from the decision of listening to my body. Like, move out of the way, Crystal.
Totally. And we need to have that like radical responsibility within ourselves, because if we don't do it for ourselves, nobody else is going to do it for us, and we'll just end up going in loops and loops and loops. And it's unfortunate, because that's how a lot of people live their life, where they're like at the end of their life and they're like, man, I wish that I did more, right? Or I wish that I leaned into things more and accomplished the things that I want. But we don't have to live that way.
I know. There are 3 beliefs that really anchor into me right now. It's like, we are the creator of our own reality, and we have all the resources that we need, and everything is a blessing, and as well as an opportunity. Like, life as life it is, and we can actually, we can. I think a lot of times what Recover and Rise has really like allowed me to kind of lean into myself is that when I notice, I feel either overwhelmed, a sense of overwhelmed, or a sense of helplessness. And I think this was like a deep programming that was in my childhood. And like, a very simple example would be like me trying to learn how to do a handstand. And the very beginning would be very fearful. And then now I can do it, because in my mind, in my heart, it's telling me, hey, I can do it. Like, I can actually do it. Like, trust, and fell forward. Like, fell forward, literally fell forward. And of course, you listen to that voice and you go leaning and deeper and deeper. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So many key things: the slowing down, the listening to the body. I love how you mentioned about some moments that you've had that could have been the point where you turned around and gave up. Those were the points where you actually leaned in with these tools, and that is what brought you to where you are today. And I know I can speak for Julia as well. She's in the comments here saying, tears watching you. We're both just so proud of you and cheering you on. And one of the things that I love most about it, which is what you mentioned about Recover and Rise, is that they're tools that we get to do on our own. There is nothing more empowering than being able to take things into your own hands and be able to learn how to shift this stuff ourselves without having to constantly rely on people outside of us, booking a call with a practitioner or going to see somebody else. Like, that stuff gets not only expensive and time consuming and all of this stuff, but when you can have it all there for yourself to just, when you're ready to just move through this stuff, there's literally nothing better.
You feel so powerful.
So powerful.
You feel so powerful. You build up that level of trust with yourself that gets even deeper. It's like, wow, I'm invisible. I actually have the universe inside of me. That's a very different feeling. Yeah.
Very, very different. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your experience with all of us. Is there anything else that you want to share as that kind of little last note for anybody who is watching this or listening, that is curious about Recover and Rise, that is kind of unsure whether this is for them? What is it that you would share with them?
I would say, I would say this question is that for some of those on the fence, but then listen to the name, was like Recover and Rise, but then didn't realize that they have some sort of addictions. All of us do. It might look like a good thing or a great thing. It could be work. It could be dedication to helping other people in service, etc. Whatever the form that looks like, if you have that nudge inside of you and tells you, hey, there's something here, even though I could not put words into it, it is for you. And allow yourself to see the value of what you're putting and committing to yourself. No money, no time, no anything else can justify the value of this that it's going to bring you. And I use this tool, as I shared, I use this tool for my own recovery with like food, with body, with relationships. Actually, that's what I'm going through right now. With business. This is a tool for life, and it's not just for recovery. And the deeper level of freedom and joy you want to experience, and then a greater level of safety that you want to feel from within when outside world is super fucking chaotic. Yeah. And I promise you, this outside world is fucking chaotic. Yeah, give yourself that grace and really like listen to that little nudge and book a call with Laura and Julia and have a chat with them and go through the page and just allow yourself to trust yourself in this decision. It's different. It's very different. It's not any other kind of more woo-woo or more any other things. It's something different that you will experience. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Crystal, for sharing all of that. And thank you just for being you and now being able to share these gifts with more people. Because I know that is the whole intention of all of this, is to really ripple this out so that everybody can be experiencing more inner peace, more joy, and more love, more connection with the people that we're here on the planet with. And we can really ripple that out to the entire collective of the world. Because like you said, the world is chaotic. You know, so many people are experiencing all of this inner chaos and they don't know what to do with it. And in order for us to tip the scale so that the planet can start getting better, is we need to learn to embody these tools so we can then ripple them out and continue allowing that peace to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And I do see it. I know it maybe seem crazy, and I'm sure you'll believe this as well, that I do see where the planet is at peace. And there is like where we can have this whole entire planet be at peace. There's a lot of work to do, but I do believe in every single one of us that is on here, that is diving into this work and that is really truly embodying what we need in order to then allow that to ripple out to the world. So thank you for being one of those people that is really diving in and moving through it. And I have seen the behind the scenes of what you've been moving through. And it's not for the faint of heart, for sure. You know, like you have to be a freaking warrior to go through it, but it is so worth it for what comes out on the other end. So just thank you for your strength. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your bravery, your vulnerability, your compassion, your love, everything about you, Crystal. We appreciate you so, so much.
Thank you. You're such a gift.
Oh, thank you, Crystal. Amazing. Well, we will close this off. Thank you so much for being on here, Crystal. I love you. And we will see everybody soon. Thanks, everybody, for who has been on here live with us. We appreciate you. Bye.